Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our webinar tonight. The month of October represents a number of very fascinating topics you and your family should be informed about. As we all know, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our papers actually have a special section this week that's dedicated to this, so check it out. But there are some other awareness topics for October that the Herald and AARP will cover in our ongoing webinar series, Living 50 Plus. Today, we'll talk about your finances as October is National Financial Planning Month. Stay with us over the next 60 minutes for this interactive discussion to learn about wealth, how to protect it, and how to grow it securely for your retirement. Hi, I'm Michael Hinman. I'm the executive editor here of Herald Community Newspapers, and I'm joined tonight by Bernard Macias. He's the Associate State Director of AARP Long Island. Hi, Bernard. How are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
Doing great.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone joining us. Good evening. And on behalf of AARP New York, I want to welcome all of you to our wealth webinar titled, our series is titled Health, Wealth, and Self. And today it's all about wealth. Again, my name is Bernard Macias. I am the Associate State Director for AARP for Community Outreach and Engagement right here on Long Island. I serve close to 500,000 members across Nassau and Suffolk. Nationally, AARP is 37 million members strong. We have 2.5 million of those members right here in New York State. A little bit more about AARP. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering Americans 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. AARP strengthens communities. We advocate for what matters most to families. And we have a special focus on health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. So if you remember anything about AARP, we're all about health, wealth, and self. Last week, we had a great presentation on health, specifically for protecting your hearing, since October is a National Hearing Awareness Month. And tonight, it's all about your wealth, protecting your wealth. So we're really looking forward to tonight's presentation. Next week, please sign up for the self seminar, all about protecting yourself against cyber crime. And to kind of wrap up this health, wealth, and self series, we have a wonderful free AARP shredding event happening on Saturday, October 29th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It's being hosted by AARP Long Island with our volunteers from Nassau, and it's going to be held at the Clinton G. Martin Park, New Hyde Park Road, Marcus Avenue in New Hyde Park. You can register for the event. We encourage people to register, but you can always just show up and you can register on site. I strongly encourage you to do that. It's a great way to step ahead from identity thieves by shredding your financial documents. You're limited to 3 grocery bags per car. Again, great opportunity for you to come down, meet with AARP staff and volunteers, and get rid of all those unwanted personal and financial documents that you don't need any longer. All right, well, tonight is all about wealth. We want to get to our presenters this evening. So Mike, right back to to you and the program.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Bernard. Always great to have you on here. And it's always great to share the screen time, Zoom time all here with you and with AARP. So our speakers tonight, they're going to provide us some exclusive tips on how to become financially secure for retirement. So here with us today is Edgar Montenegro. He is an MBA and a CFBS. And Edgar, you're going to have to explain what those are, but he's a wealth management advisor. Also with us is Donna M. Stevens. I can never say this right. She is an Esquire AIF. She's the founder and lead attorney of a Stefans Law Group. And Don, tell me if I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. This is why I work in print and not, doing voice stuff. So.
It's okay. Stefans. Fine.
It all sounds great though, no matter what. So, but welcome to both of you. Say hello, and I believe you also have a great presentation ready for us as well.
We're ready.
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Bernard, Michael, for allowing me this opportunity to speak to the members. I actually just turned 50 this year, and I thought AARP missed my house because I hadn't received, my invitation to join. And,
First time
my
I've
daughter.
ever heard that, Edgar.
Well, I was actually mistaken. My daughter tends to not put the mail in the same place, and apparently the invitation had been sitting at home for several weeks. So, great job there. So, thank you again. I am going to. Your question regarding CFBS. It's Certified Family Business Specialist.
Oh.
So, in partnership with people like Donna, I do help. Family owners who own businesses to talk about transition or exit strategies to their family. So that's what that means. And I am going to share my screen now. The first thing I should tell you is I have to read the disclaimer. It's the information is not written or intended as specific text or legal advice. I'm sure all of you can read the rest of it. So I'm hoping that the crux of our conversation today is to really encourage you to seek advice where it is needed. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about what is financial well-being is one, having control over the day-to-day, month-to-month finances. Every household is a little bit different. And also having the capacity to absorb financial shock. I think this definitely speaks to what we've been dealing with lately. Inflation is probably the highest that we've seen in quite some time. So what is it that we can do to help absorb the impact of the rising costs? Being on track to meet financial goals, how organized are we and looking at all our assets and having visibility to everything? Sometimes it's an out of sight, out of mind situation, and that can actually lead to more problems than we care to admit. And lastly, getting ourselves to a point where, you have the financial freedom to do choices because you can, and not necessarily because you have to. And that's a very powerful place to be in. I am going to just go over the agenda real quick. So these are the areas that I'm going to be going over: saving, investing, protecting, retiring, and estate planning. I am going to do my best to get through all of this in the amount of time that we have. But each one of these areas are areas that I have literally done an hour's worth of material over. But I want to make sure that you have some really great takeaways that you can use after this meeting. So, when I created this presentation, there were questions about whether or not, this portion of savings was going to apply to, to our audience. And I have no idea what, who's watching this and what stage of your lives you're in. But I don't know that regardless of the stage of life that you're in, that we still can't continue to save. If we're looking at our budgets and looking at all the expenses that are coming in and coming out, there's nothing saying that we have to spend every penny that comes into our household. And there's a lot of unknown variables that continue to come up. So, if you haven't set up an emergency fund, taking a look at where the spending is happening and trying to figure out how to slowly build it over time in case there's, another a shock that may happen and, expenses that need to go out. Large purchases, sometimes it's not necessarily a purchase you want to make. One of the things that happened to me recently is my bedroom was struck by lightning. last month. And so now an expense that I wasn't prepared to take on were some of the equipment that actually cools our house down. So those unexpected events happen, and that is a very large purchase. College tuition, whether it's our own kids or grandchildren, many of us like to help where we can. So, what is it that we can do in partnership with other professionals, your accountants, estate planners, that will help fund our college tuition. I'm going to skip over a couple of these slides and get into investing. It seems fitting. I'm currently sitting at the University of Texas, and we spent 2 days on investment philosophy. There's a lot of things that happen throughout the course of our lives. And sometimes we forget to revisit why we decided to do certain things. Perhaps our risk tolerance has changed. Maybe we're not as risky as we were when we first set up certain accounts. Perhaps, our lifestyles have changed, or our careers have changed. For those that are already living through retirement, I'm sure there's a lot of feelings of uneasiness with what's been happening in the market lately and the erosion of wealth. So I would certainly encourage you to speak to a professional. If you already have an advisor, give that person a call and really spend some time in reevaluating where your monies are invested, and whether you still feel the same way as you did 5, 10, 15 years ago when you first set up those accounts. Those days of kind of set it and forget it are very dangerous, to say the least. You certainly want to be put in a position where you can continue to plan for as long as possible. So these are examples of your basic risk tolerances. I'm sure many of you have seen charts like this in the past. Perhaps you were aggressive at some point, but the idea is that as we get older, we start going down this list to, from aggressive to moderate to conservative, in order to help preserve everything that we've spent so much time working and building, so that we have it at the time we need it the most. And I can't speak to diversifying everything that you have. There's a lot of danger in throwing your eggs in one basket. So, as you're sitting with your financial professional, making sure that your investments are sitting through a vast array of different categories to limit any huge impact in any one category. Now, protection, philosophically, I am a huge proponent in protection first. There's areas, it's amazing the amount of people I come across who have no idea what the coverages are with their auto or their home. And so, as great as someone like myself might be with growing wealth, the danger of someone suing you and putting everything that you worked so hard to build throughout the course of your life and having taken away is something that I really focus on with people that I work with. Understanding what your coverages are, why. The auto and home insurance industry has become very commoditized, and the danger is that we're always trying to find ways to lower our premiums, and sometimes it's at the expense of some of the coverages that we have. So I would definitely when you're having that conversation with whoever your insurance professional is, really take a look and see if the coverage is adequate to protect all the assets that you've grown over time in the event of a lawsuit. During COVID, my wife and I rented our home out in the Hamptons, and the first several months, great. We had a great, I guess for lack of a better word, tenants, and we decided, this went really great. We're gonna try it again, and we rented the house out to someone else, someone who wasn't actually invited to the house fell down the stairs, and as a result, we got sued. Not anything that I ever would have expected to happen. I was really hoping that it would be, a nice way to utilize our asset to generate some revenue, and instead, we spent a year and a half in court not being able to rent that house out. And fortunately for us, we did have an adequate amount of coverage, but if we had not, what would have been the alternative? So really taking a look at your home insurance, trying to see where you might be able to get some discounts if you can package certain things together. There are many discounts available for such things. Have you looked at some of the personal property that you have? Perhaps there's, some people like to collect various types of things, whether it's music or jewelry or art. Knowing what exactly your policies cover will certainly eliminate any type of situation down the road if any of those were to get damaged. And then I cannot speak enough about liability and umbrella coverage. Not many people know what an umbrella policy is, why they need it, should they have one. So as you're trying to get organized and you're looking at all your assets, does your policies that you currently have protect everything that you work so hard for? And if not, should you be using an umbrella policy? And that's, those are great questions to ask your insurance professional. I would definitely encourage you at least yearly, to pick up the phone, give them a call, and constantly, evaluate and make sure that that the coverages are necessary for your specific life. Let's see. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's certainly a place in my conversations around protection. It's also looking at the insurances that you have, the types that you have. Has your needs changed since you first took your policies out? Initially the idea might have been, well, I only need it for 20 years. And after that, we should be okay. And I guess the assumption was that, we would have a lot more assets than we had. And perhaps, the picture seemed very rosy 20 years ago. But as we all know, life changes. Between divorce or new additions to the family, all of a sudden creating additional needs for life insurance. So is your life insurance enough to adequately meet the needs that either you had originally, or perhaps these needs are fairly new, or do you want to leave something behind as legacy? Or in some situations, I've known many families who are caring for their grandchildren, and because something may have happened to one or both of the parents. So really important to look at the coverages. And some of these policies are now protecting against other eventualities, which is something that's actually near and dear to my heart, long-term care. It's it's an area, so my mother-in-law has Parkinson's. And no, there's nothing leading into us discovering that she had it that would have indicated at all that it would have been part of something that we had to deal with. No other member of her family has ever had it, so we were very surprised. But fortunately, 2 years prior to the diagnosis, we did get our long-term care policy. And we're very grateful that it's allowed us the peace of mind to have care for her while we're all working and trying to maintain the household. So I would definitely look and see if it's, something that should be part of your overall financial plan. I do know Donna has some really great statistics when she speaks, and it's something that should not be overlooked. And there's been really great changes to the industry. There's many life insurance products that actually have a component for long-term care. So if you're not aware of those, I would definitely encourage you to speak to your financial professional who may have helped you with the insurance in the past, and see if it's something that perhaps can be added on, or maybe it involves making a slight change to what you're currently doing. But it would definitely be worth your best interest to consider something like that, especially if you want to protect the assets from having to be spent down. Let's see. So there might be those of you in our workshop today that perhaps have not retired yet. Maybe you're someone like myself who still has a number of years left before retiring. But this is certainly a great way to really look and analyze where your income sources are, what your lifestyle looks like now, and whatever plans you may want to have for the future. In evaluating some of your income, one of the exercises that I always do is I always have my clients go onto the Social Security website and look at the report. I know we used to receive those in the mail, and I think they have gotten away from that, but you set up a username and password and the information is right there, and at least you have a better understanding of what you have to work with at that point in the future. Looking at your necessary expenses, housing, food, healthcare, and also trying to set yourself up in a way where you can actually make adjustments. I mean, healthcare is constantly increasing over time, and it almost seems like a moving target. Some other income sources are from assets. Some of you that may own stocks or bonds, and then also understanding the other lifestyle costs, which are the discretionary expenses. Travel. I love traveling. I can't imagine a year where we don't go someplace exciting, or trying to knock things off our bucket list. And my wife and I have 6 kids, so there's always Disney is always a yearly event. But having an understanding of your income sources and all your expenses allows a better plan for those moments that everyone can enjoy. And then next is estate planning. I cannot stress this enough. It's sadly very overlooked. One of the exercises that I have all my clients go through is I try and help quarterback the process who specializes in these, and I have seen families go through a huge ordeal when the proper planning has not been done. I'm going to share a quick story. This happened about 10 years ago, and it was definitely an event that helped define my purpose in this career. But I was introduced to a husband and wife, and one of the conversations, the introduction happened because I was asked to take over their retirement planning. And so that was the easiest part of the whole conversation. And then I asked them, well, have you ever had any financial planning done? And they said no, and they said it's something that they've wanted to do, and for whatever reason, never got around to it. So, we set up some time, and one of the things that we did evaluate was their life insurance. And so we looked at what the needs were. We looked at, what each other's lives would look like if something were to happen. And one of the things, and this is purely mathematical, when we kind of put everything up on the board and we saw the math behind everything, there was a shortfall. And so, the husband is looking at the board, and I don't know what he was thinking at the time, but after looking at everything, he turned around and said, all right, well, how do we fix it? Right. So what we need to do is get additional life insurance. Now I was a little concerned because at his particular age, it was expensive. And I was trying to make sure that it didn't dissuade him from doing what was right for his wife, but he actually did see the value in it, and we moved forward. He was approved, and it was 4th of July weekend. I'd gotten the policy. It was a Friday. We had planned to see each other. And he forgot the voided check that we needed in order to execute the policy. And I said, well, your house is on the way to your office, so if you'd like, if your wife's home, I can pick up the check. And so he called her. She happened to be there. I went, delivered the policy, again, 4th of July weekend. So I went out to the Hamptons, and on Tuesday, I'm meeting with my team, and we're just going over our clients, and I get a phone call. And so it was his wife. She was very upset, and apparently her husband died the day after I delivered the policy. Now, the reason I bring this up is because one of the things that they never did that we've spoken about, and they kept putting off, was they never actually met with an estate planner. The reason why I bring this up is because there were certain things that they didn't tell me. One was that their other insurance coverage that they had the business as a beneficiary. So what does that mean? Well, basically, the business received $1 million tax-free, and now it's going to the wife. And so she received $1 million and then had to pay taxes on that million. And to make matters worse, he had a son from another marriage. So now he was entitled to 50% of what the business received. So she actually only received $300,000 of that. So this was something that certainly could have been avoided and at least better planned for had they given themselves an opportunity to see someone like Donna. So it has become such a crucial part in my conversations with everyone that I work with. And so I would certainly encourage you to look really hard at where you are, and seek professional guidance and taking a look at establishing whatever's needed, whether it's a healthcare proxy or power of attorney, will, anything of that nature. And I don't want to take away from more of what Donna's going to be going through. So, but that is basically a summary of financial wellness. I would definitely, Donna and I are both really great at what we do, and we're not here to impress you, but impress upon you how important it is to spend some time, visit or speak with, or set up a scheduled time to meet with those professionals. that have a vested interest in your well-being. So I want to thank you all for your attention on this, and I'll let Donna take it away.
Sounds great there, Edgar. Go ahead, Donna.
Hi, guys. How are you? Well, I have to say, I agree with Edgar on everything. So I don't even have to talk. We can just go back to Edgar. But I will talk about a few things that expand upon what Edgar was talking about, because the reality is, when we talk about estate planning, we're really talking about the financial planning end of the law. So the way I look at estate planning and elder law is we need to create a map and a maze that is the plan for our lives. So who's going to get what, how they're going to get it, and how are we going to utilize our assets for our lifetime? So if we create a great estate plan, and then we don't look at the assets and match up the assets in the financial plan to the estate plan, they could still sit over here and I could have a great plan, but then they're going to get lost in the wind. So we have to match the two of them together, which is why whenever we do an estate planning meeting, we talk all about numbers. Everybody comes in and says, I ask why you're here, and they say, I need a will. But there's so many more things to think about than just who's going to get what when I die, right? How about what do I have for when I'm living, for my, retirement and long-term care? Edgar talked about that a lot. We have no idea what the rest of our life is going to be. And to some people, they see cruise ships and relaxing with a book and vacations and sunlight and playing with grandchildren. And other people see more fear in the, am I going to get sick? How am I going to pay for my care? Who's going to take care of me? So I like to think about all of those things because any of it can happen to any of us. So, but I guess what I really look at is how about we look at the fear and face it right on and plan for that fear and then put it away and then live and enjoy the retirement. Know that we took care of the estate planning documents, the healthcare documents. We have the bucket of money or the insurance to cover the care so we can go on and enjoy our lives. Because really what you need to do with this is look at it today, see where you are, see where you need to get to fill in the blanks to cover care and needs of your own, but also of family members you may leave behind. And then check in on it like every 5 years. I think that's, the starting point of what we really want to look at. So I'm going to, if you give me a second to pull up my presentation, we'll get going.
Sounds great.
And then at the end of this, Michael has some questions that you participants have sent in to us. So we're going to get into that. And here we go. Hold on. Okay. So these are some realistic and unfortunate statistics, if you can read along with me. So at least 70% of people over age 65 will need some type of long-term care services. So we all like to think that one day we hope we're going to fall asleep and be done, and that's the end of it. Reality is, at some point down the line, many people just need help at home with the basic activities of daily living, meal preparation, assistance with bathing and dressing, where they're not necessarily sick, but they just need that assist. And those things cost a lot of money, even staying at home. So, and then 59% of people that go to assisted living eventually move to nursing homes. Now, assisted livings are wonderful and great, and so is home care. But often there comes a time when people need acute medical care. more of a hospital style setting. And when at home or assisted livings are just, a social model home, they just can't deliver enough of that health medical care. There's a cost to nursing homes. So, and then of course, for the ladies in the audience, the news is, it's not new news, that most of us live longer than men, and about 68% of nursing home residents and 72% of assisted living residents are women. So your odds of needing care fall in the higher than 70% in the first number above. So, and then we look at the numbers. Well, I can tell you that current numbers for home care, $35 an hour for somebody to come to your home. And then you still have to pay for all of your expenses, such as your real estate taxes and the electricity and food. All your bills remain the same. And now you have $4,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 a month in extra care cost. So people think it's okay to stay home and I got that covered. Not necessarily. I don't have $12,000 a month to just burn on private care. And nursing homes, this number, the 2020 rate, I leave it there because it was $12,000 for Medicaid, a Medicaid rate of the average cost of a nursing home in New York over the whole state in 2020, the Medicaid rate. And we're talking about, upstate too, which is a lot less expensive. Medicaid rate is now over $16,000 a month, and reality on Long Island, you're looking at $20,000 a month. Again, I'm not sitting on that pot of money, that I could just say, oh yeah, I really want to spend that kind of money on care. And many people don't. So we have options, right? We do have options on how this is going to go. So we're going to talk about that. All right, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what I call the Fabulous Four, which are your must-do estate planning documents. And they are meant for life care planning and afterlife planning. We're going to talk about trust and estate planning. That's a very hot topic today. People are hearing more about using an asset protection trust to cover their assets and get assistance with the cost of care through the Medicare and Medicaid programs. And then we have the concepts that everybody has about, should I gift assets or my house to my children? Yes, no, maybe, why not? And the Secure Act, which is it's actually a retirement investment and planning savings act with new rules as to how your retirement accounts must be spent out during your lifetime and when you pass away. So, but I'll say it again, your financial plan needs to go with your estate plan. And you better have a good accountant in there too, so that you can make sure that, the plan does not blow up, this great plan you make, that it won't blow up your tax return, because that could be more costly than care sometimes, which that comes into play when we're going to talk a minute in the future about the different options in protecting your home, because some of them are cost effective and some of them aren't. All right. And so we have life care planning, right? Nobody comes into my office and says, I need a power of attorney. Everybody wants a will. And these are the documents, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, and the living will. These are what we call the advanced directives that are for your time period in life. If you are unable to take care of yourself or make decisions for yourself, then you appoint somebody to take care of them for you. And this is a very powerful thing to do, because right now, if you're watching this program, chances are you have the mental capacity to understand the concept of, if something happens to me, who do I trust to make the best medical decisions for me in my family or friend group? And who really do I trust to handle my money and pay for everything I need taken care of? So right now you have the power to choose. But if you become incapacitated, I mean, strange things happen, car accidents and bad medical things quickly, and then you lose the ability to think properly to do these things. Well, you've lost all control because you've not appointed the people you want to take control. And ultimately, either a court, a judge will decide who takes care of you. And it may not even be your family or the people you'd want. They could also appoint another attorney to make your medical and financial decisions who doesn't even know you. It happens all the time. If the court doesn't feel like your trusted family members are set for the job. And also, when it comes to the medical decisions, your family members may want to take care of you, but if you have no authority, the doctor's going to make the decisions, period. We'll get into that more in a minute. So we need these 3 documents: power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will. Even if you do no other planning, if you have those, you're in pretty good shape for a crisis. The other part of it is the afterlife planning. And that is wills, last will and testament, and then using trusts, which can be lifetime trusts or trusts that come into play after you die, and then understanding who your beneficiaries are. All right, so these are the fabulous 4. I know I'm repeating myself, but they're so important, I want to. Power of attorney, appointing somebody to handle your financial affairs, medical directives, wills, and trusts. I'm going to start with the healthcare proxy. Now, we're thankful for doctors because they've taken the Hippocratic oath to preserve life at all costs. In fact, if I needed help right now, I'd be really happy with the concept. But there may come a time that we want to maybe not have such heroic measures, or maybe the healthcare providers don't know what my wishes would be in certain decisions. But you need an advocate, somebody that can stand in your shoes. If you cannot understand or articulate a medical decision, then appointing the right person to do so comes into place. Now, I've seen people create their healthcare proxy, and often they say, oh, well, I'll just pick the oldest child, my oldest child. But they might not be the right person just because they're the oldest. Certainly these jobs are not a trophy and an award. It's a serious job. And I've seen people make somebody a healthcare proxy and then come back after something tragic happened in a family, and they watch that person make medical decisions that weren't great, or be too emotional or not able to even be there to make the right decisions, and they've changed the people. So you have to think about your cast of characters, right? So who do you think could make the best medical decisions? Period. But we don't have to think about this for the rest of our life, right? You can do it for the next 5 years, because in a 5-year time period, you could really envision what might be happening 5 years from now. Things will be so different, and you can always update these documents. So the healthcare proxy is a person that can get your medical records, HIPAA and all that, and they can make any medical decision at any time for you. And they're also your end of life decision-making representative. So, when it comes to certain issues that I see come our way in our office, in our law office, a person may start showing signs of dementia, and then they go to the doctor on their own, and you're not really knowing the dementia is necessarily going on. And then, you ask the person that you love, so how was the appointment? Oh, it was good. What did they say? Oh, they said everything's fine. I should just take my vitamins. Well, if you have the healthcare proxy, you have the ability to access the medical decisions, medical records, and you can call the doctor and say, hey, just checking in, how'd everything go? And very often we find that, in fact, there are diagnoses the family didn't have the power to know, but when they got the healthcare proxy, then they were able to know. And it turns out there's a lot more going on in those meetings, and maybe they better even start showing up at the meetings, but had no idea. So once you have that power, you can help in ways that you couldn't imagine. And I'm going to add that what I do in my office is for anybody over 18, and I especially do this for the kids going to college, we offer a free healthcare proxy to those kids because now they're adults. You're 18, you're an adult. So as a parent, my kids goes off to college. I don't feel any different from the day I drop them off to 2 days later. And if something happens and they get hurt, the doctors and the EMTs, they're not going to talk to me because I'm the mom. And so you do a healthcare proxy, and then they carry a little card with them, like in a case of emergency card, as my number and the backup person's number, and they are able to have these conversations in the emergency. Super important. I can't emphasize this enough. All right, living will. This is the pull the plug end of life decision-making document, which says, if the only reason I'm alive is because of machines or being put on machines, and there's nothing else that can save me, and there's no hope of my recovery, let me go as painlessly and passively as possible. Super important document. We hope we never need it, but I call this a back pocket document. So if you're in this position that you've written a living will, you've stated how you want things to go. And your healthcare proxy's job is merely just to bring that forward. Not to make the decision. And I think people need to understand this. A healthcare agent is just to be the advocate. You're saying you wouldn't want to live this way. So basically, if it ever came down to it, it's, hi, I'm this person's healthcare agent. These are their wishes. Please honor their wishes. It's how the conversation goes. And and I'll give you an example. In my own family, we got a call. My dad was a healthcare proxy for my grandfather. And we got the call that we had to come to the hospital. We ran to the hospital, and the doctor said he had an aneurysm the size of a grapefruit in his stomach. And my grandfather refused surgery. So as the healthcare proxy, my dad was asked if he wanted to make the decision, and we asked the questions. We're like, well, he's 87 years old. What was the chance of, actually, I'm sorry, 89. What was the chance of him making it through the surgery? And they said, well, probably about 5% chance. We're like, so he chose not to do this surgery. And they said, yes, but we really think you should do the surgery. Otherwise he's going to die. Well, I mean, then we're going to go to you as the healthcare agent because we're not sure about if he's making the right choice or not. And, we had the conversation with my grandfather. It was clear. He did not want this. And they went to us for the answer. And the answer was no. Ultimately, he died in his sleep and everything went okay. But he had his healthcare proxy. He is living well, and they worked. And there's so many other stories about this. And more people come to me thanking me for these documents and that little card in the wallet than anything else, even though they didn't come in for this. But I would say power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will, get them done, guys. It's not hard. This is not the tough stuff. Power of attorney. Okay. Number one tool in the financial and estate planning treasure chest, appointing somebody to handle your financial affairs if you cannot do so yourself. Again, when we get down to the conversations of, falling ill, things of dementia and death and dying, the brain power to handle these things starts diminishing in many cases. And having somebody that you can trust to help you gives you the financial wherewithal to be able to get Medicaid, make sure the retirement accounts are protected. If we didn't do the rest of the planning and protecting our assets, the power of attorney can do this with the attorney like me, and we can save the assets and, that if possible, and or pay for assisted living, pay for the best quality of life that we can. But you have to do it because nobody's going to just let you walk in and take over your financial affairs. So here, I'm going to show you right here. This is the perception. As a caretaker or the spouse caretaker, people think they're automatically seen as the person that could just go in. I'm the spouse. I've been married to my spouse for 40 years. Of course I could touch the bank account. Of course I could touch the IRA. And no financial institution, and Edgar could concur, is just going to let you go in there and do that. So, you really need to get it in writing. And I know in the financial services world, there's ways that you can put an appointed person on your accounts so that they can ask. But what the stuff we're talking about, this can be pretty serious, and all of your financial matters. And you know, again, these trusts that I do often are done by power of attorney because they weren't done in advance, but we're losing time, and time is not on our side when it comes to this. So anyway, so spouses cannot automatically make medical decisions, cannot automatically handle financial affairs. You must put it in writing with the backup people as well. So, and here's another one. What about Social Security? Well, even the power of attorney may not be powerful enough, though we put it in there. And if you see my screen here, it says there's a form that you can go to socialsecurity.gov, so SSA.gov, and get a form called SSA-11. And that form is going to allow you to, tap into their Social Security, which you may need to handle certain things. So again, these are so critical. I don't want to see you here with the guardianship court. And I can tell you, many of my colleagues are very, very busy every day in guardianship court because people didn't handle their affairs and they became incapacitated. And this becomes a proceeding that the government has a duty to protect incapacitated people. And so if somebody needs a court-appointed guardian, the court is very much going to, really kick the tires on anybody involved. Spouses, children, anybody that wants to be appointed, the court may not even seem appropriate. And you might get an attorney that's an appointed guardian for you. And they don't even know you. And I'm not saying they would do a bad job, but it might not be who you would have picked for sure. You didn't even know this person. So the worst part about this, there's like 4 or 5 attorneys involved. And if you do the math on that, and I'm not going to get into numbers, but 4 or 5 attorneys involved in your guardianship proceeding, that is time consuming. And meanwhile, your life is sitting around not being taken care of properly. How much do you think 5 attorneys in a courtroom might cost? It's not a pretty number. And it's something you simply can avoid by just doing the documents. So I'd rather see you come in and we do those 3 documents and you say, I don't think I can do anything more right now, and walk out than not do any of this at all. Because in the end of the day, the judge is going to stand in front of you if you're in this position and unfortunately say, you're just not qualified to take care of yourself anymore. And to me, that is degrading, but it might be true and not some place that you want to hear that. So I say we just get it done and avoid this, okay? Who's with me? But in the meantime, now we're going to talk about the other part of what we're going to talk about, and that is wills and trusts and who gets what and how they get it. So do we do a trust, a revocable trust, or we do a will? Well, I say maybe both, but last will and testaments, right? They follow assets that only have your name on it. So my name is Donna Stefans, and I have a bank account that just says Donna Stefans with no beneficiaries. Does anybody on this call have any idea who's supposed to get my assets? No, I'm gonna almost guarantee no. So it's silent. And then the court decides who's gonna get my assets. And instead I could do a will that says who's in charge and who gets my assets. So it's very straightforward. However, you're still back in the courtroom because now there's a proceeding in the surrogate's court for a will to be processed. So I like doing wills, and they're simple as far as the amount of documentation. There's nothing simple about a will, but it is simple as far as it's just documents and you don't have to change anything else besides documents. Versus a trust, a living trust, or a revocable trust. It's another way to do this, that you're in charge and it says, well, any assets that are in my trust here, I could do anything with for my whole lifetime, and I could use them, sell them, trade them out, put them in, whatever. And when I pass away, it goes to my kids, whatever, my heirs, immediately the day I die. And there might be some administration stuff to do, paperwork, but no court, no probate, no executors. The trustee just hands over the assets to who you say gets it. So trusts are a little bit more expensive, and there is more legwork because we do have to put assets in the trust. But at the end of the day, it's much easier for your heirs. So the time that you spend on that is well worth it at the end of the day. So we'll move on to, the last part of this, which is, all right, so I did the power of attorney and all that, and then I did a will or a revocable trust. How about how am I paying for care? None of what I just said pays for care or protects assets for paying for care. It gives you tools, but it doesn't pay for the care. And, a lot of people, there's only a couple of ways to really look at this. Let's see. Well, number one, we could spend all our assets on the care and hope that our money doesn't run out. I don't think that's a good idea. Based on the numbers I just told you, 20,000 a month, 12,000 a month. It's a lot of money a year. I don't know. At some point, I would think we would want, the vein to stop of the money blood coming out there. Or we could also buy long-term care insurance, which I think is the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, if you can do it, there's always the point that people make, and you always hear the myth. They say, oh, it's too expensive. Well, what I'm telling you, I see my clients spending $10,000, $12,000 a month on home care and $20,000 a month on nursing home care. There are no policies that I see out there in long-term care that are $20,000 a month, not even close. The cost of the long-term care insurance is exponentially cheaper than the pain of paying for 1 or 2 months of this care. So it is something to seriously look at. In conjunction with protecting your assets, a long-term care insurance policy may not cover the whole thing. But if we can do some trust and some gifting in very good protected ways, we can pay for care privately and then empower ourselves to have whatever we need to stay home, or have, what we need to cover the costs along with maybe the Medicaid program. But again, this is where the financial advisor and the attorney are crucial, working together, because how we're paying for those costs, and the accountant is all going to talk. We're going to talk about how IRAs may be the best way to pay for those costs, because it's offsetting when you take money out of an IRA. Many of you are aware that it's taxable. It was pre-tax money that you put away. Now it's taxable when you take it out. However, if I have medical bills to cover it, like AIDS, I can offset that tax and effectively almost pay no income tax. So that might be the best tool. So, all right, so we keep going. The asset protection, the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. This is what everybody is working on today, especially when it comes to protecting the house. Now with this, you have a separate trustee. So we pick people we trust to work with us. Usually it's the power of attorney person, same people. And whatever assets we put in this trust, it says these assets are in here for my lifetime, my house, my money, whatever I put in. And when I die, just like the other kind of trust, everything goes to my heirs when I pass away, but it's protected from creditors and for care purposes. The trick to it is, for nursing home, it's got to be in there for 5 years for it to be protected. So it behooves you to do this before you get sick. And for home care right now, there isn't a penalty period, but right around the corner, and I'm telling you now, it is going to happen. We are going to have a 2.5-year look back and penalty period for home care. So the sooner you do this stuff, one, you'll have some old rules to work with, and 2, you'll get out of that 5-year window, right? And after the 5 years, you don't have to worry about anything else. But it is the best way to transfer your assets and avoid the court and have the power to have your assets for your lifetime, right? And then here's the thing. I want to explain. Okay. This is the kiss of death, in my opinion. Okay. I'm going to protect my assets, specifically my house, by putting it in the kids' names because I trust my kids. I love my kids. They're going to let me stay in my house for life. And that's great. And maybe that's the case. They are the best kids on the planet. And that's not for me to judge. But there's something called cost basis and capital gains. And here's the thing. If we take that house and we put it in the trust I'm talking about, and it says, my house is mine for life. I give it to the kids when I die, right? And it's protected for long-term care. The house that I paid $40,000 for, that's worth $500,000 today, will go to my kids with the cost of $500,000 if they get it the day I die. So if they don't get it till the day I die, then they get the current value, my date of death value, as their cost. So my $40,000 house steps up to $500,000. And if they go to sell my house for $500,000, there's zero capital gains. That's huge. Huge. And then, wait, if we just give it to the kids during our lifetime, while I'm alive, if I give my kid that house, they get a cost of $40,000, the price I paid for it. They don't get that step up to the 500,000, even though it's worth 500. Cost is cost. So if you just give the kids that house for $40,000, when they go to sell it when you're gone, they're going to pay huge capital gains. So please don't do it. You're not doing them any favors by just moving it to their name. It's extremely costly. These trusts are worth their weight in gold for the fact that, one, we could protect it for our lifetime to stay home as long as we possibly can for our long-term care. Two, we know that our heirs are going to get it the way we want them to get it. And three, we're going to avoid the court. I mean, it's a triple win on these things if you spend the time thinking about it and planning for it. And the way that you do that really is by taking the time to sit down to do the estate planning meeting. And how we do this is we have our estate planning questionnaire, fact finder. We ask you to fill that out so that you're set ready for a meeting, all of your, personal, who's in the family, and how do your assets look. So we make a legal plan based on the financial plan, and then the financial advisor builds the financial plan into the estate plan, and then we balance the tax aspects with the accountant. So again, in the basket of the fabulous four, we have power of attorney, healthcare proxy, living will, right? Your will, and then the fifth is the trust, which I can't stress enough can be helpful, revocable or not revocable. And even the irrevocable gives you the ability, the asset protection trust, to change your trustees, change your beneficiaries, all kinds of stuff. So it's not really like inflexible. But either way, what I encourage is that you do a consultation so that you can sit down and say, what do I have? And at least, is any of it good? Do I have to change anything? And if I don't have anything, what do I need to do to focus on my long-term future so that I can go back to having fun and enjoying my retirement and not worried about this stuff? I can worry about it, but I know I can have it covered and protected and planned for. All right. And so I would say, we don't want the kids fighting over the house. And finally, we can talk about the Secure Act and IRAs another time, but IRAs are very powerful in the long-term planning spending tool. So don't give up on them yet. And use your dream team. So important. Thank you.
Great. It sounds great, Donna. And thank you so much for that presentation. And, we really only have time for one quick question, and, but it's probably the most important question that we have received from from the great people who are watching us tonight. It's very straightforward. I'll be dead. Why should I care? Why is this so important?
Well, Edgar, you want to take a crack at it first, or let me go? What do you want to do?
You know what? I'm gonna let you take this one.
Oh, thanks. Okay. You know what? To be honest, people are sad when you're gone, and they just want to be sad, and you don't want them to have to worry about this stuff. Let it be easy for them, because it's already hard that you're gone. That is really, truly my honest answer.
Anything to add to that there, Edgar, at all?
I mean, everything that we discussed today, when we're looking at who's affected, you know, these are all acts of love. You know, whether it's insurance, no one wants to spend money on life insurance. You know, you do it because you love your family. You know, and you know, to Donna's point, it's already hard enough dealing with certain situations. You know, why add fuel to that fire? So you know, you do it because you know it's an act of love.
And I think that, you know, the reality is, again, look at your people. Do you have people that really need financial help? Do you have people that have the ability to understand what to do with their money? Or maybe they have, I hate to say it, spouses that you wouldn't want them to get the money. Maybe they need trust. Maybe you have people who are incapacitated or have special needs that you really do need to care and plan for. And if I'm spending my time in the court handling your estate, these people don't have access to the money. And then there's many, many dollars that are being wasted on proceedings that we could have avoided. You know, I'm happy to help, but there's so many easier ways to do it.
Oh, absolutely. And but thank you both, Edgar, you know, Edgar Montenegro, Donna, Stefans, thank you so much. And just so everybody knows, we have one more of these as part of our series with AARP Long Island. It's next Thursday, 6 o'clock. We're going to have Michael Del Giudice. I'm going to say that right one of these days. It's, you know,
I think you got close there.
I think it's the closest one I've ever been to say
Yeah.
Michael Del Giudice. It's like it rolls off your tongue once you get it. But like I said, my mom made me go to newspaper for a reason, because she said radio would never work. But we're going to talk about protecting yourself against cybercrime, and it's part of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And it's going to be fantastic. If you want to register for that, go to liherald.com, liherald.com/self, SELF. So liherald.com/self. So Bernard, what did you think about that?
A lot to think about, actually. Great presentations, both of you. Thank you so much. I almost feel like we needed to split up the presentations, give Edgar, you know, the floor, and then Donna, you know, the same. I mean,
A lot of great information.
A lot of information. Donna, I think the way you presented of at least get 3 out of the other things that you need to get done. I mean, you mentioned the college kids and the healthcare proxy, something that a lot of, my wife and I were just talking about that, something that we don't really think about doing, you know, but you're sending your kids off to school. And when you think about the membership at AARP, a lot of people's perception is the association is filled with a lot of retirees. Yes, it is, but we have a growing segment of 50 to 64 and even younger, okay? And today's 50-year-old, you know, between 50 and 64 is very different than our parents were at that age. There are 50-year-olds, and I have some good friends of mine that are 50 that still have children in grammar school. So, you know, so everything is kind of, you know, floating and changing, and there's a lot of things to think about. Yeah, we should do this again. We should definitely do this again. And thank you again for this collaboration with Herald. For more information about AARP, you can always visit us at aarp.org/local to learn more about these you know, wonderful programs that we have on health, on wealth, on self, lots more upcoming events that we have, volunteer opportunities in your area. And you can always find us on Facebook at facebook.com/AARP Long Island. Everyone have a great evening and thank you again.
And
Thanks,
don't forget-
Thank you.
everyone.
And by the way, don't forget, everybody, that we do have an AARP shredding event on Saturday, October 29th from 10 a.m. to noon. It'll be at Clinton G. Martin Park in New Hyde Park. And so if you want to sign up for that, it's events.aarp.org/free shred 1022. So FREESHRED 1022. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.